get started, let's talk a little bit about just why you decided to call this press conference today.
Okay, well, the people who are opposed to the impending right-to-work legislation are eager to have much broader public dialogue and debate on the subject. And so the thought was to call press conferences at population centers around the state to urge our state legislators to postpone final vote and encourage hearings around the state. One proposal I've heard from Representative Sheila Klinker is to put a referendum on the 2012 ballot. Are you for or against right to work? And this would give citizens a chance to learn more about the issue. The label right to work is, we think, deceiving in that it limits the right to be in unions, makes it more difficult for unions rather than increase the right of workers to be in unions. So we think a healthy debate would be very useful. And lastly, you know, in reference to this, I was reflecting on this issue this morning. I'll be teaching a course that involves labor and politics this spring. And issues involving labor's right to organize have been really fundamental to so much of American politics ever since the founding of the nation. And so this debate is not about a narrow issue like should we raise the speed limits from 65 to 70 miles an hour, or not that, you know, those are important issues for certain people, but this is fundamental. These are fundamental rights. So having a longer discussion rather than a backroom deal and, you know, quick decision making in the short session of the state legislature is, you know, why we think a longer public debate is desirable.
Kind of going on with that, I spoke with Representative Randy Truitt on the phone today, and one of his points was, well, we've had public hearings, but it sounds like you and your colleagues don't disagree with that. You would just like to see more.
We'd like to see more. There was special, I would assume unusual hearing on the issue of right to work this past summer. I don't think there was much visibility to the issue. Of course, now with the flurry of activity and the public protest at the State House, this has automatically become a public issue. But I think some polls indicate that 50–60% of Hoosier citizens don't know what the right to work legislation entails. And so that suggests that, you know, even though there's been a flurry of public activity, there's a lot more of education from both sides of the aisle that could be done on the issue.
Would you say that, as you want some more discussion here, would you agree with the Democrats' decision to not show up to the State House floor, or have a filibuster type situation, as they would say?
I was impressed and inspired by their decision last year, and I would support it again. Of course, the Republicans have established these punitive fines that could kick in at any time, $1,000 a day for those that don't show up, and I think that's unfortunate. And I would understand representatives not being able to afford, you know, to absent themselves from the session because of the $1,000 fine. But I encourage and support them to do whatever they can.
And kind of on a similar foot, you know, based on recent activity at the State House, do you have perspective on the governor's decision to impose capacity and then taking that capacity limit off the State House on the first day of session on Wednesday?
Oh, I think that was wise. I was at one day last February, I was at the State House, and there were lots and lots of people there. Pizzas were brought in. There were performers and speech makers. There were people on the main floor and the second and third floor, but it wasn't super packed. It did not look like there were any safety or health issues. The protesters were respectful of the staff, and so I thought this limit was unfounded and undesirable. So I appreciated that the governor, sort of reversed the decision that was made to limit the entrance. And in a sense, one of the hallmarks of democracy is this ability for free and open and sometimes contentious public debate. In a sense, this is, as some of the sloganeers say, what democracy is all about.
Yeah. Do you feel like the decision to put that cap on was partially or entirely motivated by right to work in the first place?
I would assume that those who control the legislature were interested in limiting the debate, limiting protest, limiting access of protesters to have access to the State House. So yeah, it was politically. This is all about politics.
What can we expect at the press conference this afternoon?
Well, our decision to call a press conference was a last-minute one. We appreciated your interest and the other media outlets to either attend or, do this discussion as a substitution. And so that was our primary motivation. I might say a few things, and there will be people who have spent the day in Indianapolis who will ask to report back on what they've seen and their perceptions and observations and what's the latest status of the right to work bill. So we'll call on 3 or 4 or 5 people to make brief statements.
How many people are you anticipating to be there?
I assume since it was last minute, many people who are concerned about the issue will have been in Indianapolis. I don't expect a large attendance. It's not, we weren't thinking of a rally. We were thinking more of a meeting and frankly to encourage you folks to, cover the issue. And, I just might mention that our Rebuild the American Dream Coalition held 2 rallies around the courthouse in November about the issue of jobs and about the issue of right to work. And I think on both occasions, Channel 18 came down and covered the event and interviewed a few people. I think one of the interviewees was Eric Clausen, who was on that list. So, this is a continuation, it's not something new and different, but a continuation of our public expression of concerns about jobs and union rights.
When you're expressing these concerns, is there an outlet that you feel they're being expressed to? Is it lawmakers, is it the public, is it the media, or is it kind of all of the above?
All of the above, yeah. So, and they're interactive. If we can generate greater public concern, if that public concern is manifested in what you folks cover, then it will affect the state legislators. And we live in a time when this mix of grassroots activism and media coverage and politicians being forced to take positions publicly is, really more and more occurring. The spirit of the Occupy movement, is spreading broadly, and this is in a sense part of it.